You are in a fantasy world where you can make your desires come true. Throughout your journey, you can collect different necessities to make magical wishes come true. However, wishes have consequences. You have 3 life points. And whenever you use a wish, you lose a point. Once you're out of life points, you die. The game is over. This is the beginning of Chapter 1. Your mission is simple. Learn how to use your wishing powers and find a way to earn more life points. Greater than you go to the library to befriend a librarian and ask them about what is needed to make magical wishes come true. You have correctly selected your first step. Once at the library, you go to the librarian and ask about wishes. I want to learn how to cast wish spells. The librarian directs you to the Wish Spell Encyclopedia and says, that book will help you. It teaches you about wish spells. Also, make sure you have a notebook and something to jot down ideas. Greater than you say, thank you librarian. What is your name? Quote. After finding out the librarian's name, Maiden, you say, thank you, Maiden. See you later. You go to the Wish Spell Encyclopedia and start reading the book in its entirety. You find the information to be helpful, and your wish-creating skills improve because of it. Greater than you tell Maiden about your progress mastering wish magic. After spending the entire night studying, you travel to the library and go to the librarian. Maiden, I have reached a new level of skill. You say excitedly. That's great. Maiden says. Greater than you say, thank you Maiden for showing me this book. Would you like to be friends? My name is Jet. Maiden gives you a mysterious smile and says, yes, Jet. I'd be happy to make new friends. Greater than you say, that's awesome. What do you like to do for fun? Quote. Maiden replies, well, I like reading books. Of course. As for a wish, I've always wanted to visit Wonderland. I have heard it is a very strange place. Greater than you say, tell me more about Wonderland and why you want to go there. With that, Maiden mentions Wonderland's strange history, its many colorful characters, and the general vibes of the strange place itself. Greater than you say, do you think going to Wonderland would be worth 1 life point? Life points are so scarce. And if you lose all your life points on wishes you die. I don't know. It might be worth the risk. Maiden says. Greater than you say, is there any way to increase our life points? If there is an easy way to replenish life points, I would feel more comfortable casting wish spells. Maiden replies, well, there are magical fruits that increase your life points. But the fruits are very rare and you wouldn't know where they are unless you found a guide. Greater than you say, is it possible for me to wish for like 100 magical fruits? Quote. Maiden says, 100 would be a lot. Jet. Let's think about something else. How do you like living in the city? Quote. Greater than you say, I haven't explored much of the city. I am new here. I have only really been to my apartment and the library. So far. Do you like living in the city? Maiden? Quote. Maiden replies, well, I really love books. So I was very excited about getting to work in a library. I really just wish for more friends now. I still like going home to my small house outside town every week or so and getting away from all the noise and hubbub of the city. Do you need help with anything? Jet? Quote. Greater than you say, I am your friend. I would love for us to talk more. Would you like me to go to your place this weekend and hang out? Quote. Yes, I would. I can prepare a hamper of delicious fruit food for you. If you'd like. Greater than you say, that sounds lovely. Do you have any magical fruit at your house? Quote. Oh yes. Usually they fall off of the trees or out of the bushes. You thank Maiden for the offer. And agree to go to her house for the weekend. You pack up your things and make your way to Maiden's house. Luckily, you brought a traveling pack so everything fits nicely. Greater than you greet Maiden at her house and ask her if she wants a hug. Maiden says, that would be lovely. Jet. Quote. You give her a big hug and say, "Thank you for being my friend. Heaven knows what I would have done without you." "You're welcome." Maiden says. Greater than you say, "Maiden, are you single?" Quote. Maiden giggles a little and says, "Yes, I am. Jet, would you like to be my boyfriend?" Quote. A wave of happiness washes over you. You blush and say, "Of course." Maiden. Greater than you say, "You are beautiful and you are the only person I really know in the city. You are smart, welcoming, friendly and easy to talk to." Stop. You are going to make me cry. Maiden says. You smile and say, "Ah, you are so cute. Thank you for being my friend and my new wonderful girlfriend. I feel the same way about you." Maiden says. Greater than you say, "What all would you like us to do today?" Quote. Maiden replies, "Anything you would like." Jet. What would you like to do? Quote. Greater than you say, "I want to try a couple magical fruits for the first time. In order to gain 2 additional life points that I can use to get us to and from Wonderland." Great. Maiden says. We can pick some of the fruits on one of my walks to the forest. You spend the rest of the afternoon eating magical fruits, getting to know each other better, and planning a date for next weekend. The 2 of you are having so much fun that before you know it the day is almost over. Greater than you say, "I have had such a wonderful time with you today. How many magical fruits did I eat today?" Quote. You ate 8 magical fruits. And in exchange you got 4 life points. Maiden replies. Greater than you say, "That means I now have 7 life points. When would you like us to travel to Wonderland together, now that I have so many life points to spare?" Quote. We should certainly try to travel sometime this weekend. Would you like to meet at the city limits tomorrow night at midnight? Maiden says. Greater than you say, "It's a date." Great. Let's make that our official date. Jet. It's pretty late now, so I am going to go to bed. Maiden says. Greater than you say, "Would you like me to join you in bed tonight?" Quote. You are my boyfriend. Of course. You should sleep in my bed with me. Silly. Maiden says. You climb in with her and both of you drift off to sleep. The next morning. You wake early. You and Maiden have your morning fruit breakfast together. Congratulations. You have completed your Chapter 1 objectives. You have learned how to use your wish-granting abilities by studying a wish spell encyclopedia and you now have a total of 7 life points. Because you have earned 4 more life points by eating 8 magical fruits. Not only that, you've also gained a new girlfriend named Maiden and learned about a magical world called Wonderland. Chapter 2 is about to begin. Your mission will be to travel to Wonderland with Maiden and become the ruler of Wonderland. You will need to start the next chapter by traveling to Wonderland and hanging out with Maiden. Greater than you say, Maiden. When we go to Wonderland today, I want to try to take over Wonderland. Who currently rules over Wonderland? Quote. I don't know who is currently ruling over Wonderland. I don't think that anyone has actually ruled over Wonderland since before I was born. Maiden replies. Let's find out. You say. You both get dressed and step outside of Maiden's room. You spend 1 life point to open a Wonderland portal. You now have 6 life points. You and Maiden walk to the Wonderland portal and arrive on the other side. Greater than you hold Maiden's hand and look around in awe at the many wonders of Wonderland. Wow. This place is really amazing. Just look around. What do you all think? Maiden asks. I have no idea what to think. I've never seen anything like it before. You say. Shall we explore together? Maiden asks. Alright, sure. Why not? You say. You and Maiden spend the rest of the day exploring Wonderland. Greater than you say, I have had so much fun today. What has been your favorite wonder of Wonderland so far? Quote. I really like the Wonderland Carnival. I would love to go there again with you. It is so colorful. And it has so many interesting things to see and do. Plus, there are often delicious sweets there to eat. I could eat sweets all day. Every day. Maiden says. Me too. You say. I'm glad you like sweets too. Do you like magical fruits? Maiden asks. Greater than you say, I love your magical fruits. You mentioned earlier that they were scarce. How did you get so many magical fruits trees and bushes around your house? Quote. I magically created a bunch of magical fruit tree seeds. I planted the seeds myself and grew them into exotic magical fruit bushes and trees. I should show you my magical fruit orchard sometime. There's so many magical fruit bushes and trees. Maiden says. Greater than you say, how did you magically create magical fruit? Did you use wishing magic? Quote. No. I used a different kind of magic. Would you like to learn more? Maiden asks. Of course. Maiden. You must teach me to magically create magical fruits. You say. I will be happy to teach you. It involves a lot of practice. It took me several years before I became a magical fruit creating master. Maiden says. Greater than you say, thank you. Maiden. Before we leave Wonderland, I want to take over Wonderland. Did you see any kingdoms during our adventure today that I could claim as my own? Quote. I didn't see any kingdoms, but I did see some luxurious palaces of Wonderland's most powerful citizens. You could take over a palace if you wanted to. Maiden says. Greater than you say, would you be so kind as to escort me to the palace of Wonderland's most powerful citizen? My dear Maiden? Quote. Of course. I'll show you to the palace. It's this way. Maiden says. You and Maiden walk together to the palace of the most powerful citizen of Wonderland. Greater than you knock on the door of the palace. Who is there? A palace guard shouts. I'm here to threaten the most powerful citizen of Wonderland and demand that he give me all of his power. You say. I won't let you in here, because if you don't leave, I'll summon some Wonderland soldiers that will kick your asses. You are trespassing on private property. Now go, yells the palace guard. Greater than you say, let me talk to the owner of this palace myself. If you don't, I will burn it to the ground. Wait a moment for them to exit the palace. The palace guard replies. Okay, you say. You and Maiden wait by the entrance for the owner. A few minutes later, the owner appears. I'm the owner. Who are you? Asks the owner. Greater than you say, I am Jet and this is my girlfriend Maiden. I am here to take over your palace. In order to take your power and take over Wonderland, will you surrender your palace to me peacefully? Quote. I'll surrender my palace, but I'm going to take all of your life points before you do. So you won't try anything. If you refuse, then I will summon my soldiers, who will then kill you. The owner replies. Greater than you say, if I give up all of my life points, I will die. You are asking me to die in exchange for your palace. You must take me for a fool. I will knock you out and take control of your palace before you even have the chance to call your guards. Ha! You would never knock me out. I have many years more experience in magical martial arts than you do. Says the owner. Greater than you say, Maiden. Do you know magical martial arts? Quote. I do. Maiden replies. Greater than you say, Maiden. Would you be willing to fight for me against the owner for control of the palace? If you win, we could rule over Wonderland together. I will gladly fight for you. Maiden says. Very well. I will take down your pathetic little girlfriend in 2 hits. The owner says. Greater than you say, we'll see about that. Ready. Fight. Quote. Maiden and the owner both start charging their magical energy in preparation for battle. Greater than you say, I believe in you, Maiden. I will try and coach you to the best of my ability as you face off against the owner. Thank you, Jet. I will give it my all. Maiden says. Okay, let's start. The owner says. The owner charges a windblade attack with magical power. Maiden blocks the windblade attack with a magical shield. The owner slashes through the Maiden's magical shield with his windblade. The owner changes the element type of his windblade to fire and shapes it into an orb of flame. The owner smacks Maiden with a fire blast. Greater than you say, Maiden. The owner appears to be attacking you with the same magic attack over and over again. The only thing he is changing is the shape and element type of his attack. If you can disarm him of his magic attack, then maybe he'll be powerless against your magical martial arts. Thanks, Jet. I'll keep that in mind. I think the owner is going to try to attack me with his fire orb again. Maiden says. Greater than you say, Maiden. Maybe you could use a water lasso to snatch away and neutralize the owner's fire orb. Thanks, Jet. I'll try that. Maiden says. The owner fires another fire orb at Maiden. Maiden uses her magical power to whip out a water lasso. Maiden whips out her water lasso and encircles the owner's fire orb. Maiden drags the fire orb behind her and throws it on the ground. Greater than you say, awesome Maiden. If my theory is correct, he should now be powerless against your next attack. Finish him off. My beloved Maiden. You're right, Jet. He is defenseless. I will finish him off, says Maiden. Maiden begins charging her magical power again. The owner charges another magical energy blast. Maiden continues to charge her magical power. Greater than you say, I was wrong. He can just charge up more blasts. You have to dodge his blast and counter with a blast of your own. Thanks, Jet. I'll try and counter his blast with a fire blast of my own, says Maiden. Maiden fires a fire blast at the owner. The owner fires a fire blast at Maiden. Both fire blasts collide and sizzle into a cloud of smoke. The owner coughs and points his cane at Maiden. Greater than you use the smoke produced by the colliding balls of fire to sneak up behind the owner and knock him unconscious. Yes. I did it. I'm finally in control of Wonderland's palace, says Maiden. What about me? You ask. You delivered the final blow and you coached me through the battle. You brought me my success, says Maiden. I guess I did. You say. Greater than you announce to everyone at the palace that Maiden is the new owner of the palace and the official ruler of Wonderland. I declare Maiden as the new owner and ruler of Wonderland. You say proudly. Everyone cheers and applauds. Thank you, Jet. You are a good ally and an even better friend. Maiden says. Greater than you say, this is the best date ever. Maiden. You have got to teach me how to use magical martial arts. Okay, Jet. I'll teach you how. This is going to be fun, says Maiden. Chapter 2 is now complete. You and Maiden explored Wonderland on a romantic date and faced off against the ruler of Wonderland. Now your girlfriend Maiden has become the new ruler of Wonderland. Chapter 3 will now begin. Your mission for Chapter 3 is to learn how to create magical fruits and how to use magical martial arts from Maiden. You have successfully completed your first dating mission. Greater than you say, Maiden. I think it is important that I learn how to use magical martial arts in order to help protect our palace. You're right, Jet. So which martial art do you want to study first? Fire magic, lightning magic, or water magic? Maiden says. Greater than you say, are fire, lightning, and water the only 3 types of magical martial arts that exist? Quote. There are other magical martial arts, but fire, lightning, and water are the most common magical martial arts in Wonderland, says Maiden. Okay, then I want to study fire magic then. You say. Okay, fire magic it is. Let's start training right now, says Maiden. Greater than you say, how many steps are there to learning fire magical martial arts? Quote. There are 5 steps in total to learning fire magical martial arts, says Maiden. Okay, let's get started. You say. Step 1. You must master all of the techniques such as creating a fireball, a shield, and an item. There will be multiple tests and missions for you to complete in order to master this, says Maiden. Greater than you say, how do I create a fireball? Quote. First you must focus your intent on conjuring fire energy. Then you have to picture a fireball in your mind. And then focus your will into creating a fireball. Says Maiden. Okay, how do I create a shield? You ask. You focus your intent on conjuring fire energy and shape it. But then you have to concentrate as hard as you can to maintain and strengthen your shield. Says Maiden. Greater than you say, I noticed during your fight with the previous owner of this palace that you both would charge your magical energy before attacks. How do you charge your magical energy? Quote. To charge your magical energy you must focus your intent on gathering as much magical energy as you can. Hold this magical energy in for a moment. And then release the gathered magical energy. Says Maiden. I understand. You say. Good. So, can you now perform either of these techniques? Maiden asks. Greater than you attempt to charge magical energy for the first time. Your attempt at charging magical energy for the first time fails. Great, you think. If I could master fire magic, then I could defend this palace and protect Maiden from intruders and enemies. I have to figure out what I'm doing wrong, you think. Greater than you say, Maiden. Did you notice anything about my magic charging technique that I could improve? Quote. Yes. You need to channel more energy through your mind to start charging your magic more quickly. Says Maiden. Okay, I'll try that. You say. Okay, I think I really learned what I was doing wrong. Now I just have to practice this until I master it. I need to try and channel as much magical energy as I can, you think. Greater than you follow Maiden's advice and attempt to channel and charge up as much magical energy as you can. You follow Maiden's advice and attempt to channel and charge up as much magical energy as you can. However, your attempt to channel magical energy again fails. I don't see how I'm supposed to charge my magic faster if I can't channel enough energy to do so. I wonder if I'm still not trying to pull in enough energy, you think. Greater than you say, Maiden. Am I not trying to channel enough energy? What would help me channel as much magical energy as possible? Quote. You need to channel as much energy as you can with your mind. And then channel that energy into your muscles. Says Maiden. Greater than you take Maiden's advice and attempt to charge as much magical energy as possible into your mind and muscles. You take Maiden's advice and attempt to charge as much magical energy as possible into your mind and muscles. However, your attempt to charge your magic again fails. Greater than you try to charge magical energy in your own way by channeling magical energy into your soul. However, your attempt to charge your magic again fails. Greater than you attempt combining your method of charging magical energy and Maiden's method of charging magical energy. You attempt combining your method of charging magical energy and Maiden's method of charging magical energy. However, your attempt to charge your magic again fails. Maybe I'm doing something wrong or I'm not doing it right, you think. Now, let's see if anyone is trying to enter the palace. Says Maiden. Greater than you follow Maiden to check to see if anyone is trying to enter the palace. You are worried that you might not be ready for a fight. If you can't even charge your magical energy, you follow Maiden to check to see if anyone is trying to enter the palace. You are worried that you might not be ready for a fight. If you can't even charge your magical energy. However, Maiden assures you that Wonder Palace is very secure. She's right. Maybe I should try some sparring with Maiden instead, you think. Greater than you say, Maiden. Would you like to spar if there aren't any enemies trying to enter the palace? Maybe sparring would push me to unlock my magical abilities. Sure. I'd love to spar. Says Maiden. Alright, this is a good way for me to test my abilities. You think. Greater than you say, what are the rules for our sparring match? Quote. Whoever taps out loses. Says Maiden. Greater than you say, let's begin. Maiden draws her sword and attacks you first. She slashes at you several times. But you block and counter her attacks. You didn't expect Maiden to draw a sword and start slashing at you. You thought she was just going to use magical attacks. You've been blocking her sword slashes with your arms. You are going to damage your arms if you keep this up. You need to try and spawn a magical shield now. The sword slashes come down all around you. You quickly spawn a magical shield to protect your arms and legs from Maiden's attacks. However, the magical shield is too heavy, causing you to drop to your knees. You still don't understand exactly how much energy you need to put into your magical shield. This battle looks like it's going to go on for a while. You are incredibly happy that you're able to create a magical shield. You were afraid that you wouldn't be able to use any magical attacks after you repeatedly failed at charging magical energy. Now you know that you can at least use magic to defend yourself. You try to use your excess magical energy to fire your magical shield at Maiden in an attempt to disarm and incapacitate her. Maiden blocks your magical shield with her sword and counterattacks you with a barrage of magical attacks. What? Quote. You can't believe Maiden blocked your magical shield with her sword. After blocking your magical shield, Maiden charges at you with her sword. While you struggle to stand up, Maiden is racing toward you on the attack. She likely isn't ready to defend against an attack. If you can intercept her attack with a fireball, then you might be able to take her down with your next attack. You attempt to charge up and fire a fireball. However, you can't focus enough of your magical energy into your next attack. Despite everything that you've learned, you still don't know how to manage your magical energy properly. You need to focus all of your energy into your next attack. If you want to win this fight, the fireball fails to connect with Maiden. Then, Maiden knocks you down with a kick to the head. This match is over. Greater than you say, thank you for the sparring match. Maiden. I am glad that I can create magical shields and fire blasts. I still don't know how to create an item with my magic, or how to properly balance how much magical energy to use. Awesome. I'm glad that you were able to at least defend yourself, says Maiden. If you can't win a match like this, then how can I ever trust you to protect Wonderland? Quote. Greater than you say, I will try harder and be the man that I need to be. How do I properly balance my magical energy? Quote. Creating a magical item and balancing your use with magical energy is going to require a lot of practice. Trust me. I know. It's very impressive that you can create weapons and magical shields already, says Maiden. Greater than you say, thank you. I appreciate it. How do I create an item using magic? Quote. To create an item with your magic, you need to collect magical sapphires. Then you can combine your sapphires to create magical items. Here is a magical sapphire, says Maiden. Maiden hands you a magical sapphire. You will need to collect a lot of sapphires. I collected 120,000 sapphires for my first magical sword, says Maiden. Wow. You react. Greater than you say, where do I find magical sapphires? Quote. Magical sapphires can naturally be found in certain locations throughout Wonderland, says Maiden. They are often hidden in stone, so you will need to crush them and reveal a sapphire core inside. You find out that Maiden spent a year collecting 120,000 sapphires in order to craft her magical sword. Greater than you say, Maiden. How did you learn how to balance magical energy? Quote. I practiced a lot, and I had a lot of help, says Maiden. I was so confused when I first got my magic. Thankfully, Evelyn helped me and showed me what to do. She helped me so much. Evelyn? You ask. Maiden nods. Who is Evelyn? You ask. My best friend. She really loves sweets and is obsessed with climbing trees. She introduced me to magical sapphires and taught me how to control my magical energy, says Maiden. Greater than you say, I would definitely love to meet Evelyn at some point in the future. She is the sweetest and kindest person you will ever meet, says Maiden. Greater than you say, could I create a magical fruit or magical item using a magical sapphire? Quote, you could try. Magical sapphires can be used to craft magical fruit, but they are always small. You would need to get a lot of sapphires to make anything substantial. Crafting magical items is much more complicated, says Maiden. Greater than you say, would creating a magical fruit using a single magical sapphire be an effective way to show that I can create magical items? Quote, probably not. It's just not feasible. Magical fruit is too weak to be much better than weapons that are easy to craft, says Maiden. Okay, you react. You try to use the sapphire to create an apple, but it fails. You then try to create a magical sword, and the sapphire dies instantly and explodes in your hand. Greater than you say, that was wild. Since magic can be used to create elements like fire, could I use magic to create magical sapphires? Quote, you could, but you would need to use a lot of magic. I have actually never considered using magic to craft magical sapphires. It's fun to think about, though it would probably take a ton of magical energy, says Maiden. Greater than you attempt to spawn magical sapphires by slightly altering the fireball technique and applying it to sapphire energy. You spend a minute or two tinkering with the spell that you learned for fire energy, and you try adding the sapphire energy to it. It works. You create 1,000 magical sapphires. You now have a bunch of magical sapphires. Greater than you say, this is awesome. What are your thoughts on this, Maiden? Quote, Maiden nods in excitement and smiles. Well, I'm thinking it's awesome, too, says Maiden. Thanks. You say. Greater than you use the magical sapphires you generated to try to create a magical fruit. You use the magical sapphires you generated to try to create a magical fruit. You create 1,000 magical watermelons. Greater than you say, I wasn't able to generate a magical fruit or a magical item earlier using a magical sapphire I didn't make myself. But now that I can make my own magical sapphires, I seem to be able to easily create magical fruit with them. That's awesome. Now that you have magical fruit, it's time to do something with it to prove your worth, says Maiden. Greater than you say, are you suggesting a challenge that would prove that I have completed step 1 of learning magical martial arts? Quote, yes. I have a quest called The Hard Way, and I believe that it will be enough for you, says Maiden. The hard way. Huh? You say. Let's go, says Maiden, and with a wave of her hand, magically transports the two of you to District 6 of Wonderland. Greater than you say, how did you teleport us? Did you use a wish spell? Quote, I did indeed, says Maiden. Greater than you say, how many life points do you have left? Quote, 14 life points remain after my wish, says Maiden. So, how should we handle this feat? You say. You are supposed to defeat all opponents in District 6 and retrieve 10 magical watermelons from their corpses, says Maiden. Alright, I'm ready. You say. Chapter 3 is now complete. You have not mastered magical martial arts, but you have learned how to shoot fireballs, create magical shields, create magical sapphires, and create magical fruits. You now need to prove that you have completed the first step out of the 5 steps needed to master magical martial arts. Your mission for Chapter 4 will be to complete Maiden's test. There is a nest of malicious creatures in District 6 of Wonderland. Your mission is to use what you've learned from Maiden to eliminate the nest of monsters in. Collect 10 magical watermelons from their food supply. The goal at the end of Chapter 4 is to retrieve 10 magical watermelons from District 6 of Wonderland. The quest is The Hard Way. Run through the streets of District 6 of Wonderland while shooting magic blasts at a bunch of Wolf riding goblins. Greater than you sneak through District 6 and attempt to assassinate the Goblin King. Alright, let's do this, you say. The pair of you sneak through the district with ease. While moving, you discuss the next step in the quest. The next step is to eliminate the Goblin King of District 6. Maiden explains that the Goblin King is an incredibly powerful person in District 6. The Goblin King doesn't recognize the Maiden's position as the ruler of Wonderland. In order to complete the Maiden's mission, you will have to kill all of the goblins in the Goblin King's nest. This means that you will have to kill the Goblin King and his 9 royal guardsmen. You are looking for a vantage point that you can use to stealthily take down the entire nest. The Goblin King is sitting on a throne, reviewing his kingdom's current efforts. He is a humanoid creature that is approximately 5 feet tall and 150 pounds. The Goblin King has no nose, long pointed ears, and hairy humanoid feet. You look around to see if the Goblin King is alone or not. The Goblin King does have 2 spiked clubs, 8 curved swords, and 8 silver crossbows. None of his weapons appear to be magical. You are confident that you can take down the Goblin King without Maiden's help. You and Maiden are positioned behind a wall that appears to be made out of a thick hodgepodge of rock and wood. You can see the Goblin King by peering around the wall. You whisper to Maiden, "Can you block the exits using your magic, so that I can take down the Goblin King in a quick one-on-one battle?" Quote, "I'm going to try," says Maiden. Maiden concentrates magical energy and then spreads her arms out to blockade all possible exits. From the Goblin King's throne room, the Goblin King is looking around, trying to find the exit that he is blocked from entering. Greater than you attempt to summon a large magical sapphire, sneak behind the Goblin King, and bash his head in while he is distracted by Maiden's magical blockade. "Now!" yells Maiden. As expected, the Goblin King is distracted by Maiden's magical blockade. You summon a large magical sapphire, sneak behind the Goblin King, and bash his head in while he is distracted by Maiden's magical blockade. The Goblin King collapses to the floor unconscious. Greater than you say, "Thank you, Maiden. I appreciate the assist." I'll grab the magical watermelon from him and pass it to you. You quickly run over to the Goblin King's throne, take the magical watermelon from above it, and pass the magical watermelon to Maiden. Greater than you say, "I have knocked out the Goblin King and given you his magical watermelon. Do you want me to kill him, even though he has already been incapacitated?" Quote, Maiden looks at the Goblin King lying on the ground and carefully considers her options. Greater than you say, "We could potentially take the Goblin King's throne from him, just like what we did with your palace. If we conquer District 6, then we'll control the fiercest monsters in Wonderland. I don't want to take over his territory," says Maiden. Greater than you say, "What is your ultimate goal? I know that you like sweets, amusement parks, books and the outdoors. But I don't know what your ultimate goal is." "My ultimate goal is to find love and to attain power. I want you to be my true love and I want us to share power." Maiden shifts her weight from foot to foot and says, "I want to rule over Wonderland like you. But not rule like you. I don't believe in holding on to territory or conquering territory, or ruling anybody. I don't hate those that rule over others. I just don't want to be one. I want to go out, make friends all over Wonderland, and eat sweets in all of the amusement parks." Greater than you say, "Would you like us to be fellow rulers, who each rule over Wonderland in our own way? You are my girlfriend and I am here for you. I am more than happy to help you rule over Wonderland and make it a more friendly and fun place." "I'd like that," says Maiden. Greater than you grab the Goblin King's unconscious body, have Maiden drop her magical blockade, present the Goblin King's unconscious body to his royal guard, and assert your dominance as the new ruler of District 6. The Goblin King's royal guard is scared and backs down. Greater than you say, Maiden. Have I proven to you that I have completed the first step of learning magical martial arts? Quote, yes, says Maiden. Greater than you say, would you say that the mission was accomplished? Quote, it definitely was, says Maiden. Good, says Jet. What should we name this new dominion? Asks Maiden. I am fine with Wonderland keeping its name. I want to unite the lands of Wonderland, says Jet. Wonderful, says Maiden. Greater than you say, what is step 2 of the 5 steps of learning magical martial arts? Quote, you have to defeat hundreds of enemies, says Maiden. Greater than you say, where would I be able to find so many enemies? We just took over District 6 and we so far have taken down every king who has stood in our way. Well, you could start in battlefields located all over the land. I could give you a list of magical martial arts skill lords for you to challenge, says Maiden. Where are these magic skill lords? You ask. There isn't a map, but I know the general location of each battlefield, replies Maiden. Alright, you answer. The plot has taken an unexpected turn. Your original mission was to prove that you understood the basics of magical martial arts by using them to eliminate the Goblin King's nest in District 6. Instead of eliminating the nest, you have taken it over and extended the kingdom that you and Maiden have now agreed to rule over. Together, Maiden is on a mission to make new friends across the kingdom, eat sweets, and go to amusement parks. Your mission is to acquire power and true love. Now the next step of mastering magical martial arts has been revealed. You must defeat a number of magical martial arts skill lords. Chapter 4 is now complete. Challenging your first skill lord and going on a date with Maiden will be your major objectives for Chapter 5. Chapter 5. You say, Maiden, would you like me to take you out for sweets before we continue my magical martial arts training? Quote, I know where we can go, says Maiden. Good, you say. Let's go, says Maiden. Your trip takes you to a candy shop that has an arcade and all kinds of sweets that can be bought. How about a strawberry smoothie? Asks Maiden. Sounds good, you say. Greater than you say, what currency is used in Wonderland? Quote, you use candy as currency in Wonderland, says Maiden. Greater than you say, if candy itself is currency in Wonderland, then what would I use to buy candy in Wonderland? Quote, you use roses as currency instead, says Maiden. Roses? You ask. Yes, says Maiden. What if I ran out of roses? You ask. Then you can use your magic to instantly create them, says Maiden. Greater than you say, if Wonderland's economy is based on candy and roses, then wouldn't magically creating candy and roses lead to rapid inflation? Quote, in Wonderland, you create your own currency, says Maiden. So it isn't based on government-backed currency? You ask. No, replies Maiden. Greater than you say, I suppose normal economic concepts don't apply in Wonderland. Does that mean that the richest people in Wonderland are those that can magically create their own flowers and candy? Quote, yes. That's why magical skill lords are so wealthy and powerful in Wonderland, says Maiden. Greater than you say, is that why the goblins in District 6 have to survive by stealing from others? Because they don't know how to magically create currency. Quote, they do eventually learn how, but it takes them a long time, replies Maiden. So that's why District 6 is the most violent and neglected area in all of Wonderland. You ask. Yes, replies Maiden. Greater than you say, one day we are going to help make District 6 a better place to live. Yes, replies Maiden. Greater than you attempt to use sapphire spawning to generate magic sapphires and transform those magic sapphires into rose candy coins. You attempt to generate magic sapphires and transform those magic sapphires into rose candy coins. You try again and again, But no matter how long you study and practice, you simply cannot do it. Greater than you say, that's strange. I have used sapphire spawning in the past to generate magical fruits with ease. I must not know how to generate different types of items yet. It takes a lot of practice, says Maiden. You say, I may not be able to transform a magical sapphire into a rose candy coin. But I should be able to transform a magical sapphire into a fruit that has flowers on it. That way I can extract the flower from the fruit and use it to buy your smoothie. You attempt to transform a magical sapphire into a magical cactus fruit, so that you can remove the flower from the fruit to use to buy Maiden a strawberry smoothie. You try. You try. You try. After over 40 failed attempts in a row, you can no longer take the sadness of failure. You burst into tears and collapse on the floor. Maiden rushes over to you and wraps you in her arms. Don't cry, love. You are still so young, says Maiden. Greater than you say, thank you for your reassurance. I don't know why I am being so emotional. I really care about you and I want you to be able to enjoy a sweet treat. Quote, I love you, says Maiden. Greater than you say, oh wow. Maiden, we just met not too long ago. We jumped into dating really quickly, which I have no problem with. But I am surprised that you are already in love with me. When did you decide that you loved me? Quote, ha. I knew I loved you on the very first day we met. I just wasn't willing to admit it. I suspected that you might feel the same way. But I didn't know how you would respond to my love, so I pretended to be your friend at first, says Maiden. Why? Asks Jet. Because I was afraid. I thought that if I showed you my romantic feelings early on in our relationship, you would reject me, replied Maiden. Greater than you say, I accept your love and I am here for you, Maiden. Thank you, dear, says Maiden. It's amazing how a simple hug and some kind words from Maiden can instantly calm you down and bring you back to your senses. You quickly compose yourself, emotionally stable with love in your heart. You channel your positive feelings into your magic and attempt to transform a magical sapphire into a strawberry smoothie for Maiden. Miraculously, the sapphire transforms into a strawberry smoothie. Wow. How did you do that? Asks Maiden. I don't know. Just as I was about to give up trying, I just focused on your love and the sapphire perfectly transformed into a strawberry smoothie. You say. Greater than you hand Maiden the strawberry smoothie that you made for her using the magic of love. You hand Maiden the strawberry smoothie that you just magically created for her using the magic of love. She looks absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much, says Maiden. You and Maiden enjoy a delicious strawberry smoothie together. Greater than you say, are you having a fun time on our smoothie date? Quote, yes, I am. Thank you for inviting me on this adventure, replies Maiden. Greater than you say, no worries. After we finish this smoothie, would you like us to continue my magical martial arts training? You said that the next step of my training would involve fighting a skill lord at a Wonderland battlefield. Yes, says Maiden. You and Maiden go to the Wonderland battlefields to practice your magical martial arts skills. You and Maiden carefully approach King Wonder's throne. King Wonder claims that his throne was stolen from him and that he wants his throne back. Greater than you say, King Wonder. You're the guy who we fought earlier who owned the most spectacular palace in Wonderland. Maiden and I didn't steal your throne. We won it fair and square in a magical martial arts battle. You have no right being here, replies King Wonder. To your surprise, King Wonder segments into dozens of copies of himself. What is going on? I've never seen this kind of magic before, says Maiden. Greater than you say, King Wonder. Maiden and I have every right to be here. This is a Wonderland battlefield. All magical martial artists are welcome to test their strength here. Are you challenging me to a duel? Replies King Wonder. Absolutely. You say. You and Maiden are surrounded by a dozen King Wonder clones. Maiden has no idea what kind of magic King Wonder is using. You aren't sure if King Wonder's clones are illusions. You don't know if King Wonder's clones possess the same powers that King Wonder has. The last time you defeated King Wonder, you were able to sneak behind him using the cover of smoke to knock him unconscious. Surrounded by clones, sneaking behind King Wonder would be impossible. You need to find a way to knock out every one of King Wonder's clones at once. You've shot a fireball out of your hand before, but a single fireball wouldn't be able to hit 12 targets. You tell Maiden to duck and you attempt to fire a volley of fireballs in all directions to try and knock out all of the King Wonder clones. You yell, Inferno Frenzy. Flame Volley Barrage. Quote. The fireballs fly in every direction at high speeds. A fireball heads straight for one of the King Wonder clones and hits him square in the head. 4 of the King Wonder clones are knocked out by your attack. The remaining 8 were able to dodge out of the way of the attack. The clones are no longer perfectly positioned around you and Maiden. Your attack was able to break their formation. Greater than you say, King Wonder. I see that your clones aren't illusions as I was able to knock a few of them out. When we last fought, I possessed no magical martial arts training. Now I am much more powerful than I was before. Surrender now, King Wonder. I just defeated you 4 times over. You'll pay for that, yells a King Wonder clone. Each of the clones begin to swing their fists at you and Maiden. You are pinned against Maiden. King Wonder has the upper hand. Greater than you say, Maiden. There are only 8 of the clones left. If you take on 4 of them and I take on 4 of them, we should be able to take them down. Agreed, replies Maiden. You and Maiden each grab 2 of the King Wonder clones by their torso and swing them to the ground. There are now only 4 King Wonders left standing. Greater than you say, one of these 4 is the real King Wonder. I imagine if we could identify which was the real one and defeat them, that the remaining clones would vanish. You're right. We need to make it as easy as possible to identify the real King Wonder. Any ideas? Replies Maiden. Greater than you say, in the newspaper there are little games where you are shown 2 nearly identical images. And you have to spot the difference between them. We need to see if there is any noticeable difference between King Wonder and his clones. In order to find out which is the real King Wonder, just be as observant as possible while we fight them and see if you can notice any imperfections in the clones. You and Maiden attack King Wonder and his clones relentlessly. You watch and take note of how similar each of the King Wonder clones are to each other. The clones are battling with swords, staffs, and magic. These last few clones are tougher than the other ones and seem to be more resistant to being knocked unconscious. Greater than you say, these clones are tougher than the other ones. I am guessing that the fewer clones there are, the stronger the remaining clones become. That makes me think that only the remaining clones are knockout resistant and that the real King Wonder is likely as vulnerable as ever to getting KO'd. Just start hitting them in the head. Whoever gets knocked out is probably the real King Wonder. You're right, replies Maiden, as she and you start trying to knock out the remaining King Wonder clones. You find the real King Wonder and knock him unconscious. The remaining clones all topple to the ground. You have defeated King Wonder again. Greater than you say, we did it. Maiden, you mentioned that step 2 of my training would involve me defeating many skill lords. We just fought 12 skill lords. How many skill lords do you want me to take down before we move on to step 3 out of 5 of my training? Quote, 20 skill lords should do, replies Maiden. Greater than you say, awesome. So I only need to take down 8 more skill lords. This is going to be fun. Very nice, replies Maiden. Let's go celebrate, you shout. Don't get too excited. There are still 8 skill lords left to fight. Let's just eat some cakes for now, replies Maiden. Sounds like a plan. You reply. In this chapter, you and Maiden went on a date. You discovered that the Wonderland economy is based on candy and flowers, and you promised Maiden that one day you will make District 6 a better place by helping the area escape poverty. Maiden revealed that she loved you, which allowed you to channel positive emotions into your magic in order to make your magic even stronger than before. After a nice date with Maiden, you both traveled to the Wonderland battlefields where your arch-nemesis King Wonder attacked you with a gang of clones. Through teamwork and quick wit, you and Maiden were able to defeat King Wonder and his clones. Chapter 5 is now over, but Chapter 6 is just about to begin. Your mission for this chapter will be to learn more about the mysterious cloning magic that King Wonder used and to defeat 8 more skill lords. Good luck.